Before we begin, I want you to imagine something simple. A traveler walking through life with 3 stones in his pocket. Small at first, barely noticeable, but every mile he walks, they grow heavier. The first stone burns his hand. The second leaks poison into his chest. The third wraps itself around his feet. He does not know their names, only that each step feels harder than the last. One day, an old master stops him and asks, "Why do you carry what was never yours to hold?" The traveler empties his pockets and sees the truth for the first time. Haste, resentment, stubbornness. 3 silent burdens that have ruined more lives than disasters ever could. Today, we will speak of these 3 fears, not as ideas in books, but as shadows that follow each of us. Stay with me. Your steps may become lighter. Impatience, the first fear of life. They asked the old sage, "Master, what destroys a person fastest?" He answered without looking up, "The fire inside them, not the one that warms, but the one that burns." Those around him thought he spoke of anger or desire or jealousy, but the old man shook his head slowly and whispered, "No, I speak of impatience, the quiet disaster that wears the mask of ambition." And so he began. Why impatience is the first great fear of life. Impatience is not simply the desire for things to come quickly. It is the refusal to walk at the pace of reality. It is the heart demanding the world to move faster than it was ever meant to. A seed does not become a tree because the gardener stares at it. A river does not change its course because one traveler grows tired. Yet humans, in our restless breath, believe life should kneel to our tempo. 1. Impatience blinds wisdom. The sages of old often said, "The slow step sees the ground. The fast step meets the pit." When a person rushes, they no longer perceive clearly. They confuse noise for opportunity, movement for progress, and urgency for importance. The impatient mind is like water constantly shaking. It cannot reflect anything clearly. A wise decision cannot emerge from a trembling heart. And so, impatience becomes the silent architect of the stakes. 2. Impatience creates suffering where none existed. Most of human pain does not come from what is, but from what we insisted should have been. When we demand life to obey our expectations, we create our own suffering. The ancient teacher Liang once said, "The fruit turns bitter when you force it to ripen." Many break their own spirits trying to force a path that was never meant to be taken. They push and push and push, not realizing that the price of impatience is always paid in regret. 3. Impatience turns blessings into burdens. A blessing received before its time becomes a burden. A victory gained too early collapses under its own weight. A relationship rushed becomes a wound. A goal forced becomes a prison. Time is the silent sculptor shaping everything we desire, and impatience is the thief that breaks the sculpture before it is finished. Those who cannot wait soon discover that life is far heavier than they imagined. 4. Impatience is a form of fear disguised as desire. People believe impatience comes from ambition, passion, or confidence, but the old texts say otherwise. Impatience is the fear of being left behind. It is fear that another will reach the destination before you. Fear that life owes you something and might forget. Fear that you will lose what was never truly yours. When fear drives the wheel, the destination never brings peace. This is why the ancient masters watched the sky, the soil, the seasons. They understood that nothing noble grows from fear, only from presence. 5.
Impatience destroys the inner world first. Before impatience ruins your work, your plans, or your path, it ruins your spirit. It hollows the heart. It dries the breath. It turns rest into guilt, silence into discomfort, waiting into suffering. You no longer live, you chase. You no longer grow, you grasp. You no longer walk, you run without direction. The impatient life is a fire that devours the one who carries it. 6. The cure for impatience is not slowness, but alignment. The sage once said, "Flow with time. Do not wrestle with it. When you force the river, you drown. When you follow it, it carries you home." The opposite of impatience is not laziness. It is respect. For time, for process, for reality itself. To cure impatience, a person must learn 3 things. 1. Accept the pace of your season. A tree only blooms when its roots are ready. 2. Do the work and release the timeline. The soil knows when to open. 3. Recognize that what is delayed is often being prepared. Life does not forget, it arranges. And so, the sage concluded, a person's life collapses first not from misfortune, but from the heart that refuses to wait. Impatience is not merely a flaw. It is the first great fear. The fear that life will not give us what we desire unless we chase it violently. But the truth is simple. What is meant for you arrives with its own footsteps. What is not meant for you cannot be held even with both hands.
Resentment, the second fear of life. A disciple once asked an old master, "Teacher, why does resentment stay in my chest even when the person who hurt me has long disappeared?" The master poured tea into the disciple's cup, and he kept pouring. The tea spilled over, burning the disciple's hand. Startled, he shouted, "Master, why did you not stop?" The old man looked at him gently and replied, "Because resentment does the same to you. It burns you long after the fire should have gone out." Why resentment is the second great fear of life. Resentment is often mistaken for strength. People think holding on to pain means they have not lost. But the ancient texts say, "The hand that refuses to let go of the knife is the one that bleeds." Resentment is not a shield. It is a wound kept open by the mind. Let us understand why the sages feared resentment more than enemies, storms, or misfortune. Number 1. Resentment survives longer than the event that caused it. A hurt may last a moment, but resentment can last a lifetime. Why? Because resentment is not fed by the past, it is fed by memory. The mind replays the same moment again and again until the wound becomes deeper than the original cut. The sages called it the second suffering. Not what happened, but what we continue to do to ourselves after it happened. The person who wronged you may sleep peacefully. You are the one still carrying the weight. 2. Resentment imprisons the heart. One master said, "The iron bars around your heart were forged by your own hands." Resentment restricts everything, your joy, your trust, your growth. It is like closing the windows to prevent cold wind, but forgetting that sunlight also cannot enter. You think you are protecting yourself, but you are only preventing life from reaching you. A heart filled with resentment is too full of darkness to receive anything bright. 3. Resentment corrupts perception. When resentment takes root, you begin to see the world not as it is, but through the smoke of your grievance. You start to mistrust kind actions, doubt genuine intentions, confuse friends for foes, reopen healed memories, and rewrite the past to justify the pain. The ancients warned, when the eyes are clouded, even the sun is mistaken for a torch. You don't just resent others, you begin resenting life itself.
4. Resentment destroys the spirit more quietly than anger. Anger is loud. Resentment is silent. Anger burns quickly and disappears. Resentment burns slowly until nothing remains. It tries the soul drop by drop. It turns warmth into bitterness, patience into suspicion, and compassion into self-defense. A person filled with resentment becomes exhausted without knowing why. Their mind is always heavy. Their chest is always tight. Resentment whispers, "Hold on, don't forgive, don't heal." And by obeying it, you live in chains. Number 5. Resentment turns you into the very thing you fear. When someone hurts us, we fear becoming vulnerable again. We fear the mistake repeating. But resentment transforms us into what we despise. You become harsh because someone was harsh to you, closed because someone closed their heart first, cold because someone froze your trust, distrusting because someone broke a promise. In trying to avoid pain, you become a mirror of the one who caused it. This is the saddest victory resentment achieves. Resentment is born from the illusion that life must be fair. A disciple once asked, "Why do good people suffer?" The master replied, "Because suffering does not choose virtue, but wisdom chooses what to do with suffering." Those who demand fairness grow bitter. Those who accept reality grow wise. The 7th. The remedy for resentment is not forgetting, but understanding. The old sages taught, "Forgiveness is not the erasing of the wound, it is the releasing of the blade." Forgiveness does not mean the memory disappears. It means the memory no longer controls you. To heal resentment, one must acknowledge the hurt without feeding it. Pain seen honestly becomes smaller. Understand that people act from their own wounds. A person can only give what they have inside. Choose to reclaim your peace. The heart is yours, not theirs. And detach the present from the past. Do not let yesterday rule your tomorrow. You do not forgive because they deserve it. You forgive because you deserve rest. Resentment is the second great fear because it chains the heart to a moment long gone. The sages said, "You cannot walk far when you drag a corpse behind you." What died in the past must be allowed to stay there. If you keep carrying it, you will never move freely, never breathe deeply, never grow fully. Letting go is not weakness, it is wisdom.
The third fear, stubbornness. If haste burns the future and resentment poisons the past, then stubbornness is the chain that binds a person to the same spot for a lifetime. Among the 3 fears, this one is the quietest. It does not shout, it does not threaten. It simply whispers, "I am right. I cannot change." And slowly, without realizing it, a person becomes a prisoner of their own certainty. The ancient masters warned, water that does not move becomes stagnant. A mind that does not bend becomes broken. Yet stubbornness often disguises itself as strength. Many cling to it because they fear appearing weak, or because they believe letting go means losing face. But no war has ever been won by someone who refused to learn. No bridge has ever been built by someone who refused to listen. To understand stubbornness, imagine a bamboo grove standing before a storm. The trees bow deeply in the wind, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. For the bamboo knows something that the rigid oak forgets. The storm cares nothing for pride. People, however, confuse rigidity with honor. They cling to opinions long after they stop serving truth. They repeat the same mistakes, not because the path is correct, but because admitting error feels too heavy for the heart to bear. But what is error truly? A wise person once said, "Mistakes are simply the footprints of a traveler, learning where not to step." To refuse these footprints is to walk blindly forever.
Stubbornness also destroys relationships quietly. Where resentment is fire, stubbornness is ice. It freezes the space between two hearts, making every word brittle, every silence colder. A person who cannot bend cannot understand. A person who cannot understand cannot grow. And a person who cannot grow soon becomes alone. Look deeply into your own life. How many opportunities slipped by because you refused to change course? How many friendships withered because neither side would take the first step? How many peaceful nights were turned restless simply because the heart whispered, "Let go," and the mind replied, "Never." The masters believed that true courage is not stubbornness, but adaptation, the ability to shift, to rethink, to rebuild. Like a river that finds a new course when a stone blocks its way. It does not argue with the stone. It does not push until it cracks. It simply flows elsewhere, carrying its strength with it. To free oneself from stubbornness, one must learn the art of yielding. Yielding is not surrender. It is clarity. It is the understanding that the world is wide, that other minds hold wisdom, that truth is not a single candle, but 1,000 small flames held by many hands. The old teachers often gave their students a simple practice. Before insisting they were correct, they had to pause and ask 3 questions. 1. Does this belief bring peace or tension? 2. Does it open a path or close one? And 3. Does holding on to it make me wiser or smaller? If the belief brought only friction, blocked every direction, and made the heart narrow, then holding on to it was nothing but pride in disguise. Stubbornness shrinks the soul. Flexibility enlarges it. To bend is to trust that the world will not collapse simply because you adjusted your stance. To listen is to honor the truth that lives outside your own mind. And to change is to prove that you are still alive, still growing, still learning, still capable of walking forward with lightness. A person who lets go of stubbornness becomes like a clear mirror, able to receive the world as it is, not as the ego demands it to be. From this clarity comes freedom. From freedom comes wisdom. And from wisdom comes the strength to leave behind the chains that once pulled you into darkness. The 3 fears, haste, resentment, and stubbornness, do not defeat a person in a single day. They slowly erode the spirit, grain by grain, until the heart forgets how to breathe deeply. But once seen clearly, they lose their power. When the traveler finally emptied his pockets, the stones fell to the earth without a sound. The path ahead did not change, but his steps became lighter. And so will yours the moment you dare to release what weighs you down. If these words helped you loosen even one of your burdens, then stay with this path. Follow the channel for more ancient wisdom rewritten for modern lives. Less noise, more clarity, and a reminder each day that a lighter heart walks farther.